that tray down. You're a daughter-in-law, not the boss.
Then why am I the one who built everything here? That design, it's mine.
Pewa, let it go for tonight.
You took my work and called it yours. But this time, I have proof.
Tangini couldn't answer before her phone vibrated. A confidential file had just arrived. The garden behind the Windhoek Grand Pavilion shimmered like a painting made of light. Drapes in gold and cobalt blue curved gently in the breeze, paired with deep red protea arrangements lining the aisle, creating a space so luxurious it almost felt unreal. Guests were arriving in greater numbers, their laughter blending with soft music, and all eyes were drawn toward the center where Ndeshi's engagement ceremony was about to begin. Pua stood at the edge of the garden, not as the designer, not as the coordinator, just as a guest. Her cream dress with a hint of gold was simpler than what she usually chose for grand events. Not because she didn't want to stand out, but because today she wasn't here to be seen. She was here to observe. Tangini stood beside her, holding a glass of water he hadn't yet touched. He said nothing for the first few minutes. His gaze moved from the decorations to the stage area, then back to Pua. "Are you okay?" he asked. Pua didn't answer immediately. She scanned the garden. Everything felt familiar. Too familiar. The curves of the fabric, the placement of the lighting to create depth, the way the tables were arranged to guide the flow of guests. It was her design. No contract, no payment, and no credit. "I'm fine," she said, a short answer, but not reassuring. Tangini studied her for a moment longer. "We don't have to stay if you don't want to," he said. Pua shook her head. "I need to be here," she replied. "For what?" he asked. Pua didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because she wasn't ready to say it out loud. Across the garden, Ndeshi stepped out from the preparation area, wearing a shimmering golden silk gown with softly structured Herrero-inspired shoulders. She looked perfect, confident, radiant, as if nothing in her life had slipped out of place. Zakaria stood beside her in a cream suit, smiling at guests. His hand rested lightly on her back, a gesture that felt just intimate enough to show connection, but controlled enough to guide her movement. Pua watched, missing nothing. "He didn't ask her," she said quietly. Tangini turned. "What?" "He didn't ask before touching her," Pua said. "He decided for her." Tangini fell silent. He looked back at the stage. Maybe before he wouldn't have noticed. But now that Pua said it, he could see it. Small gestures, but clear. The ceremony began. The host stepped up, voice warm, introducing the Kawi family and the union of two prestigious households. Applause echoed. Selma sat in the front row. She wore a deep wine-red dress, her expression proud as she looked at her daughter. No one would guess that just 2 days ago, she had a tense confrontation with her daughter-in-law. Everything looked perfect, too perfect. "Family," the host said, "is where we find strength and support." Pua heard it. She didn't react, but her eyes shifted slightly. The ring exchange was quick. Ndeshi smiled, Zakaria smiled, the guests clapped. Cameras flashed endlessly. Then came the speeches. Zakaria took the microphone. He spoke about love, respect, and building a future together. His words were polished, smooth, rehearsed. "In my family," he said, "we believe a woman is most valued when she doesn't have to carry too much." Some nodded, some smiled. Pua didn't. She looked at Ndeshi. Just for a second, but enough. The smile on Ndeshi's face remained, but it wasn't quite the same. Zakaria continued. "That's why I told Ndeshi that after marriage, she doesn't need to work so hard anymore. She deserves to rest." A louder round of applause. Selma smiled, proud. Tangini glanced at Pua. He said nothing, but his eyes asked. Pua didn't answer. She just kept looking at the stage. Ndeshi took the microphone. She inhaled. "Thank you," she said. "I am very grateful." One sentence, short, not as smooth as Zakaria's speech, but no one noticed. The applause continued. Music resumed. Everything moved forward, as if nothing needed to be questioned. But Pua knew. She had seen it. A crack, very small, but real. The ceremony ended. Guests moved toward the dining area. Ndeshi stepped down from the stage and walked toward Pua. She smiled. "What do you think?" she asked. Pua looked at her. "It's beautiful," she said. "Not a lie, just not the whole truth." Ndeshi nodded. I knew you'd like it, she said. Even if you didn't design it, a light remark, but edged. Pure didn't react. I hope you like it too, she said. Of course, Ndeshi replied. It's my day? Pure held her gaze for a second. Yes, she said, it is your day. Ndeshi turned away. She didn't linger. Sakaria called her. She followed, without hesitation. Tangeni exhaled. See? He said. Maybe it's not as bad as you think. Pure didn't respond immediately. She watched Ndeshi, watched how Sakaria's hand rested on her shoulder, watched how she leaned slightly in his direction. Not everything is bad, Pure said, but not everything is okay. Tangeni didn't argue. He just stood there. This time not because he didn't know what to say, but because he was beginning to understand some things couldn't be explained away. Pure's phone vibrated. A notification. She opened it. An email from a major client. Subject: concern regarding design ownership. Short message: they had seen the event photos, they recognized the design. They asked whether Desert Bloom Living still held exclusivity. Pure read it. She didn't sigh, didn't panic. She simply turned off the screen. Let's go, she said. Tangeni nodded. They left the garden, stepping away from the lights and laughter, leaving behind a perfect ceremony that no one wanted to look too closely at. Behind them, the music continued. Ahead, the path was slightly darker, but clearer. And this time, Pure knew she wasn't just protecting a contract. She was protecting identity, and that would make everything far more complicated. The glass doors of Desert Bloom Livings slid open silently, letting in a stream of golden sunset light that stretched across the polished marble floor. The studio was quiet, but not empty. Every corner carried the presence of work in progress, carefully arranged materials, and a sense of order that felt intentional rather than forced. Pure stood by the long design table, reviewing a layout sketch. Her fingers traced the lines slowly, not to fix anything but to understand it more deeply. She had barely slept, but it didn't show. Her posture was steady, her expression calm. Only her eyes carried a sharper focus than usual. Tangeni leaned against the doorway, watching her. You came early, he said. Pure didn't look up right away. I didn't leave, she replied. A simple answer, but not a light one. Tangeni stepped further inside. You should have rested, he said. Pure finally looked at him. I did, she answered. He didn't argue, not this time. Instead, his gaze moved across the studio, the boards, the samples, the unfinished concepts that still held structure despite the chaos surrounding them. You're still working on their event? He asked. Pure nodded once. I'm finishing what I started, she said. Even after what happened, Tangeni asked. Pure paused. Not just enough. I don't stop being who I am because someone else crossed the line, she said. Tangeni absorbed that. Slowly. You're not doing this for them, he said. Pure shook her head. I'm doing this for me, she replied. Silence settled between them. But it wasn't heavy, just clear. A notification sound broke the moment. Pure's phone lit up. A message from an unknown number. She opened it, a single image. The engagement setup already partially installed. Her design, her layout, her signature structure, used without her. No credit, no contract, no acknowledgement. Tangeni stepped closer. What is it? He asked. Pure turned the screen toward him. He frowned. They already started? He said. Pure didn't answer immediately. Her gaze remained on the image. They didn't wait, she said quietly. Tangeni's jaw tightened. This isn't just disrespect, he said. This is theft. Pure locked her phone. It's worse than that, she replied. Tangeni looked at her. How? Pure turned back to the table. They think it's normal, she said. They don't see anything wrong with it. A pause. That's why it continues. Tangeni exhaled. He wanted to say something stronger, something decisive, but he didn't. Not yet. What are you going to do? He asked. Pure picked up a pen, not to draw, just to hold. I'm not reacting today, she said. Tangeni frowned slightly. Why not? Pure looked at him again. Because if I react now, it becomes about emotion, she said. And they'll dismiss it. Tangeni nodded slowly. And later, he asked. Pure placed the pen down. Later, it becomes about clarity, she said, a short sentence, but precise. There was a knock on the glass door, soft, measured. Both of them turned. Ndeshi stood outside, alone. She didn't smile, didn't wave. She just stood there waiting. Pewa didn't move immediately. Neither did Tangeni. The moment stretched. Then Pewa walked to the door and opened it. Ndeshi stepped inside. The air shifted, not dramatically, but noticeably. I won't stay long, Ndeshi said. Fiwa nodded. Say what you came to say, she replied. No hostility, no warmth, just direct. Ndeshi looked around the studio. Her eyes lingered on the design boards, on the materials, on the details she had once overlooked. It's different here, she said. Fiwa didn't respond. Ndeshi turned back to her. I saw the setup, she said. So did I, Pua replied. A brief silence. I didn't know they would start this early, Ndeshi said. Pua held her gaze. You didn't ask, she said, not accusing, just stating. Ndeshi didn't deny it. I thought, she began, then stopped. She didn't finish the sentence, because whatever she thought, it no longer mattered. Pua waited, but didn't help her complete it. I came to tell you that I'll handle it, Ndeshi said finally. Pua's expression didn't change. How? She asked, and then she hesitated, then said, I'll talk to my mother. Pua tilted her head slightly. That's not handling it, she said. That's asking permission. The words landed, quiet, but sharp, and Ndeshi's posture stiffened. For you, maybe, she said. For me, it's different. Pua didn't argue. She just looked at her, and in that look, there was something there she couldn't ignore. Not judgment, not anger, just awareness. You still don't see it, Pua said softly. Ndeshi frowned. See what? Pua stepped back slightly, giving space but not distance. That this isn't about your mother, she said. It's about you. Silence, longer this time. Ndeshi didn't respond immediately, because for the first time she wasn't sure what to say, and that uncertainty was the beginning of something she hadn't expected. Not yet, but soon. Very soon, the conference room on the 12th floor of Desert Bloom Living was filled with a quiet tension that didn't need to be announced. The glass walls reflected the bright windhoek morning, but inside, the atmosphere felt more focused and open. Pua sat at the head of the table, not because she needed authority, but because she was ready to take responsibility. Across from her sat her legal advisor, Amukugo Shilongo, a composed man in his early 40s with a reputation for precision rather than noise. He didn't waste words, and today neither did Pua. Tanjeni stood by the window, not part of the meeting, but present watching, listening. We've reviewed the material you sent, Amukugo said, placing a neatly organized file on the table. Your design was clearly used without a formal agreement. Pewa nodded. I know, she said. No written contract, he continued, but there is sufficient evidence of authorship drafts, timestamps, client correspondence. Pewa leaned back slightly. Enough to act, she asked. Amukugo met her gaze. Yes, he said, if you choose to. A pause, hesitation, consideration. Tanjeni shifted slightly. You should, he said. They crossed the line. Pua didn't respond immediately. Her eyes remained on the file. This isn't just about crossing a line, she said. It's about what happens after. Amukugo folded his hands. What outcome are you looking for? He asked. Pua didn't answer right away, because the answer mattered more than the action. Clarity, she said finally. Not compensation, not revenge, just clarity. Amukugo nodded once. Then we proceed carefully, he said. He opened the file. There are 3 options, he continued. Formal legal action, private settlement, or strategic exposure. Tanjeni frowned. Exposure? He asked. Amukugo glanced at him. Not public scandal, he clarified. Controlled visibility, making the truth known to the right people. Pua listened, not reacting, just processing. And timing? She asked. Amukugo closed the file again. That's the most important part, he said. Too early and it looks emotional. Too late and it loses impact. Pua nodded slowly. She understood that better than most. Her home phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from one of her senior designers. Clients are asking questions. Pua read it, then placed the phone face down. They've already started noticing, she said. Amukugo wasn't surprised. They always do, he replied. Tanjeni crossed his arms. So what are we waiting for? He asked. Pua finally looked at him. For them to realize it themselves, she said. Tanjeni shook his head slightly. That takes too long, he said. Pua didn't disagree, but she didn't change her stance either. Not if you let it unfold, she said. Silence. Then a knock on the door, short, firm. Amukugo glanced at Pua. She nodded. Come in, she said. The door opened. Selma stepped inside. Alone, no announcement, no hesitation, just presence. She was dressed in a structured navy outfit, minimal accessories, her posture as controlled as ever. But something about her energy was different, not softer, but less certain. I won't take much of your time, Selma said. Power gestured to the chair across from her. Sit, she replied. Selma hesitated for half a second, then sat. Tanjani didn't move. He remained by the window, watching both women. I heard you've involved a lawyer, Selma said. Her tone wasn't confrontational, but it wasn't neutral either. I'm preparing, Pua replied. Selma nodded slowly. As you should, she said. A small shift, unexpected. Tangani's eyes narrowed slightly. Even Amukugo paused. I came to understand your position, Selma continued. Pua didn't soften. Which one? She asked. Selma held her gaze. All of them, she said. Pua leaned forward slightly. My position is simple, she said. My work is mine. Selma didn't interrupt, and what was used, Pua continued, was not shared. It was taken. The words were calm but undeniable. Selma exhaled quietly. Intent matters, she said. Pua shook her head once. Impact matters more, she replied. Another pause. Longer this time. Selma glanced briefly at Amokugo, then back to Pua. What do you want? She asked. The same question, but from a different place. Pua answered without delay this time. Accountability, she said. Selma's fingers tightened slightly on the edge of the table. And if that's given? She asked. Pua met her eyes. Then we move forward, she said. Simple, clear, no conditions hidden. Selma studied her, as if seeing her fully for the first time. This won't stay contained, Selma said. If this becomes public, Pua didn't let her finish. I'm not the one who made it public, she said. Selma fell silent because that was true, completely true. Another quiet moment passed. Then Selma stood up. I'll speak to them, she said. Pua didn't nod, didn't thank her. She simply watched. Selma paused at the door, then added, this won't happen again. A statement, not a promise. And that difference mattered. She left. The door closed behind her. Tanjani exhaled. That's new, he said. Pua didn't smile. No, she replied. That's necessary. Amukugo gathered the file. We wait, he said. Pua nodded. Yes, she said. But this time waiting didn't feel passive. It felt deliberate. Because the next move wouldn't be about proving anything. It would be about defining everything. The main ballroom of the Windhoek Grand Pavilion came alive, once again this time, brighter, louder, and far more crowded than the engagement ceremony. Crystal chandeliers reflected golden light across polished floors, while guests in vibrant formal attire filled the space with layered conversations and quiet expectations. But tonight something was different, not in the decorations, not in the music, but in the atmosphere. It felt like people were watching more closely, listening more carefully, as if everyone sensed something was about to shift. Pua stood near the far end of the ballroom, not hidden, but not centered. Her presence was intentional. She wore a deep gold evening gown, structured yet fluid, catching light out with every subtle movement. It wasn't louder than the room, but it didn't need to be. Tangeni stood beside her. Are you ready? He asked quietly. Pua didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved across the room. Selma was speaking with a group of guests. Ndeshi stood nearby, smiling, but not fully engaged. Sakaria was greeting investors, his confidence steady as ever. Everything looked controlled. I'm not here to be ready, Pua said. Tanjani glanced at her. Then why are you here? He asked. Pua turned slightly. To be clear, she replied. Short, precise, and final. Across the room, a familiar figure stepped onto the small stage. The host. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced warmly. Thank you for joining us tonight as we celebrate not just a union, but a future. Applause followed, polite, expected. Pua watched, not reacting, just observing. Speeches began again. Selma was invited first. She stepped onto the stage with composed elegance, her voice steady, her posture unshaken. Family, she began, is built on trust. A few nods in the crowd. Pua didn't move, Selma continued, and, she said, requires honesty, especially when mistakes are made. A subtle shift, not loud, but noticeable. Tanjini glanced at Pua. Pua remained still, listening. Selma paused briefly, then added, in the past few days, I have come to understand that something important was mishandled. The room quieted slightly. Guests looked at one another, not confused, but curious. Selma didn't rush. She let the silence hold. An idea, no, she corrected herself. A design was used without proper acknowledgement. Now the shift was clear. Not dramatic, but undeniable. Sakaria's expression changed slightly. Ndeshi's smile faded. Tanjeni straightened. Pure remained calm. Selma's gaze moved across the room, then stopped. On Pure, Selma said, I take responsibility. A quiet ripple moved through the crowd. Not shock, but recognition, because responsibility was not something people expected to hear, especially not like this. Selma continued, and more importantly, she added, I want to correct it. She gestured toward the stage assistant. A screen behind her lit up. Images appeared, design drafts, layout plans, timestamps, clear, undeniable. And at the corner of each image a name, Piwa. The room fell silent, not the polite kind, the real kind, where people stop pretending not to see. Tanjini exhaled slowly. They did it, he murmured. Piwa didn't respond. Her eyes remained on the screen, not with triumph, but with stillness. Selma stepped aside slightly. This event, she said, was built on her work. No embellishment, no excuse, just truth. The host hesitated, not used to this kind of moment, but then adjusted. Mrs. Piwa, he said carefully, would you like to join us on stage? All eyes turned. Piwa didn't move immediately. Tanjeni looked at her. This is it, he said quietly. Piwa inhaled, then stepped forward, not rushed, not hesitant, just certain. Each step carried weight, not of pressure, but of decision. She reached the stage, took the microphone and looked at the room. Hundreds of faces, waiting, expecting, maybe even judging. But she didn't let that shape her. I didn't come here to take anything back, she said. Her voice was calm, clear, and I didn't come here to embarrass anyone. A pause. I came here because what we create matters, she continued. Not just the final result, but how we get there. The room stayed silent, listening. When something is taken without acknowledgement, she said, it doesn't just affect one person. Her gaze moved briefly to Ondeshi, then to Sakaria, then back to the crowd. It changes what we think is acceptable. Another pause. Then, but tonight, she said, we have a chance to reset that. No anger, no accusation, just clarity. Selma watched her closely. Ndeshi looked down, for the first time truly unsure. Sakria's posture shifted, subtle, but real. Pure lowered the microphone slightly, then added, so I'm not here to demand anything. A few people leaned in, expecting more. I'm here to define something, she said, a breath. Respect, the word hung in the air, simple but heavy. She stepped back, returned the microphone, and stepped off the stage. No applause at first, just silence, then a few claps, then more, then the entire room. Not loud, but genuine. Tanjeni smiled slightly, not because she won, but because she didn't need to. Pure walked back to him. Are you okay? He asked. Pure nodded. Yes, she said, and this time it was true, because for the first time in days, she wasn't reacting. She wasn't waiting. She wasn't proving. She was simply standing in who she already was, and that changed everything. The next morning, the city of Windhoek felt quieter than usual, as if the previous night's events were still settling into people's thoughts. But inside Desert Bloom Living, the atmosphere was anything but quiet. It was focused, measured, and shifting. Pure stood by the large window overlooking the city, a cup of untouched coffee resting on the table beside her. The sunlight reflected softly against the glass, but her attention wasn't on the view. It was on the aftermath. Her phone had not stopped vibrating since early morning. Messages, emails, calls, clients asking for confirmation, partners requesting clarification, and a few offering quiet support. Tanjeni walked in holding a tablet. You've seen this? He asked. Pure didn't turn immediately. I've seen enough, she replied. Tanjeni placed the tablet on the table and turned it toward her. An article, not sensational, not exaggerated, but precise. Design authorship questioned at high-profile engagement event. Pure glanced at it briefly, then looked away. They kept it controlled, she said. Tanjeni nodded. Just enough to make people aware, he replied. Pure picked up her phone, scrolling through a few messages before locking the screen again. No one's attacking, she said. They are just noticing. Tanjeni leaned against the table. That's more powerful, he said. Pure didn't disagree, because awareness couldn't be undone. A soft knock came from the door. Before either of them could respond, it opened, and Deshi stepped inside. This time, she didn't hesitate, and she didn't come alone. Sakaria followed behind her. The energy in the room shifted instantly, not tense, but undeniable. Pure turned to face them fully. Tanjini straightened. No one spoke for a moment. Then Ndeshi stepped forward. I read the article, she said. Pure nodded slightly. So did I, she replied. Ndeshi took a breath. This isn't how I wanted things to unfold, she said. Pure's expression remained calm. But it is how they unfolded, she answered. Not harsh, just true. Zakaria stepped in. We're here to resolve this, he said. His tone was controlled, but less confident than before. Pure looked at him. For who? She asked. A simple question, but it landed. Zakaria paused. For everyone involved, he said. Pure held his gaze for a moment longer, then shifted her attention back to Ndeshi. What do you want? She asked. Not what they wanted, not what the situation required, but what she wanted. Ndeshi hesitated, because this time there was no one else to answer for her. I want to correct it, she said finally. Pua nodded once. How? She asked. Ndeshi glanced briefly at Zakaria, then back at Pua. Publicly, she said. Tanjani's eyebrows lifted slightly. Zakaria's posture tightened, but he didn't interrupt. Pua studied her. Why? She asked. Ndeshi didn't answer immediately, because the answer mattered. More than before, because I didn't choose before, she said, and now I need to. Silence followed, not uncomfortable, but real. Pure took a slow breath, then stepped away from the window. If you do it, she said, it has to be clear. Ndeshi nodded. It will be, she said. No vague statements, Pure continued. No shared responsibility that hides the truth. Zakaria shifted slightly, but still didn't speak. Ndeshi met Pure's eyes. It will be mine, she said. A direct answer, and for the first time it felt like a decision. Pure considered her words, then nodded. Then do it, she said. No conditions, no delay, just acceptance. Zakaria finally spoke. And after that? He asked. Pure turned to him. After that, she said, we move forward. He studied her expressions, trying to understand what forward meant. But Pure didn't explain it because it wasn't something she could define for him, only for herself. Ndeshi exhaled slowly. Thank you, she said. Pure didn't respond to the gratitude. She simply nodded once more, because this wasn't about thanks. It was about alignment. Ndeshi turned to leave. Zakaria followed, but just before reaching the door, he stopped and looked back at Pure, not with dismissal, not with arrogance, but with something unfamiliar. Respect. He didn't say anything. Then he left. The door closed. Tanjini let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. That went differently, he said. Pure walked back to the table. Yes, she replied. Tanjini looked at her. Do you trust them? He asked. Pure paused, then shook her head slightly. I trust the choice she just made, she said. A subtle distinction, but an important one. Tanjini nodded slowly. And you? He asked. Pure picked up her coffee, still untouched, but now she took a sip. I'm not waiting anymore, she said. Tanjini smiled faintly. Good, he replied. Outside, the city continued as usual, but inside that room something had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. Because for the first time, everyone involved was no longer reacting to the situation. They were choosing their place within it, and that choice would define everything that came next. The press room inside Windhoek Grand Pavilion was already filled with quiet anticipation. The lighting was softer than the ballroom, but sharper in intention, every angle designed to capture clarity, not spectacle. Rows of chairs were occupied by industry partners, selected media representatives, and a handful of invited guests. Not a crowd, but the right audience. Pure stood near the back of the room, not hidden, just not positioned at the center. Tanjini stood beside her. This is bigger than last night, he said quietly. Pure nodded. Yes, she replied, because this time it's intentional. At the front of the room, a simple podium had been set. No decoration, no branding overload, just a microphone and space. Ndeshi stepped forward first. She wasn't smiling, but she wasn't avoiding the moment either. She was present. Zakaria stood slightly behind her, not leading, not interrupting, just there. Selma remained seated in the front row, watching. Carefully, the room settled, the quiet kind of silence that meant people were ready to listen. Ndeshi adjusted the microphone slightly, then began. I want to speak clearly, she said. Her voice didn't shake, but it wasn't rehearsed. I was involved in a decision that used work that was not mine. No pause, no softening, just truth. The room remained still. I didn't question it at the time, she continued. and that was my responsibility. A few people exchanged glances, not surprised, but paying attention. Indeshi took a breath. Today I'm correcting that, she said. She gestured toward the screen behind her. The same images appeared again. Design drafts, timelines, ownership. Clear, precise. But this time it wasn't being revealed. It was being acknowledged. This work belongs to Pieyua Iyambo, Ndeshi said. Her voice was steady now, and it should have been recognized from the beginning. Silence. Not uncomfortable, but complete. Zacharias stepped forward next, a slight shift but noticeable. I supported that decision, he said, and I didn't question it either. His tone was lower, more controlled, but I should have. He didn't look at power, not yet. He kept his focus forward. Leadership isn't just about moving forward, he continued. It's about knowing when you've moved incorrectly and stopping. A subtle tension eased in the room, not because everything was fixed, but because something real was being said. Selma watched closely, not approving, not intervening, just observing. Ndeshi stepped back slightly, then added one more thing. This is not a shared mistake, she said. It was my choice to continue something I didn't fully understand. A deeper silence followed, because accountability, when it was this direct, didn't leave space for interpretation. Pua remained still at the back of the room. She didn't step forward. She didn't interrupt. She didn't react visibly. But something inside her settled, not relief, not satisfaction, just alignment. Tanjeni glanced at her. You okay? He whispered. Pua nodded slightly. Yes, she said, and this time it carried weight. At the front, the host stepped in. Miss Pua, he said respectfully, would you like to respond? The room turned again, but differently than before. Not with curiosity, but with recognition. Pua didn't move immediately. She let the moment pass through her, then stepped forward, not slowly, not dramatically, just deliberately. She reached the podium, looked at the room, then at Ndeshi, then at Zakaria, and finally at Selma. Her voice was calm. I'm not here to respond to what was said, she began, a slight shift in the room. I'm here to acknowledge what was done. She paused, letting the distinction land. What happened wasn't just about a design, she continued. It was about a standard. She glanced briefly at the screen, then back to the audience, and today that standard was corrected. No praise, no criticism, just clarity. Ndeshi lowered her gaze slightly. Zakaria stood still. Selma's expression remained unreadable. Pua continued. I don't need recognition to know my work has value, she said, but recognition defines how others learn to respect it. A quiet murmur moved through the room, not disagreement, but understanding. So this, she said, gesturing lightly around the space, is about me. A short pause. It's about what we choose to accept moving forward. She stepped back, didn't wait for applause, didn't look for approval. She simply left the podium and walked back. Tanjeni smiled slightly. Still you, he said. Pua returned the smallest hint of a smile. Yes, she replied. At the front of the room, the energy had shifted, not loud, not dramatic, but undeniable. Because this time no one was guessing anymore. No one was assuming. Everything had been said, clearly, and that clarity left no space for the past to quietly repeat itself. The office floor of Desert Bloom Living felt different, not quieter, not louder, but more aware. Conversations didn't stop when someone walked by. They shifted. People still worked, still moved between desks, still discussed projects, but there was a subtle change in how they looked at one another. Not suspicion, not judgment, but attention. Fiwa walked through the space with her usual calm pace. No rush, no announcement, just presence. A few team members nodded as she passed, not out of obligation, but recognition. She returned each nod. Simple, natural, no performance. Inside the main design studio, large screens play active project layouts, textures, material samples, evolving concepts. The space was alive with creativity, but today there was also something else layered into it, clarity. Tanjeni followed a few steps behind. You feel it? He asked quietly. Pua didn't slow down. Yes, she said. They reached her workspace, clean, organized, unchanged, but somehow different. Tanjini leaned against the edge of the desk. No one's pretending anymore, he said. Pua placed her tablet down. That's what happens when things are said clearly, she replied. A pause, then a soft knock at the open door. Selma stepped inside, alone, again. But this time, her presence carried less control and more intention. "Do you have a moment?" she asked. Pua looked up. "I do," she said. Tanjeni straightened. "I'll give you space," he added, stepping out without being asked. Selma waited until he left, then stepped further into the room. For a moment, she didn't speak. Not because she didn't have words, but because she was choosing them. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began. Pua listened, not interrupting. "About standards," Selma continued. Pua nodded slightly. "They matter," she said. Selma exhaled. "I built this company believing I understood that," she said. "But somewhere along the way, I started prioritizing outcomes over process." Pua didn't react immediately because this wasn't a statement for response. It was a realization. And when that happens, Selma added, "You stop noticing where things begin to slip." Silence followed, not heavy, but honest. Pua stepped closer. "Noticing is a choice," she said. Selma looked at her. "And correcting?" she asked. Pua held her gaze. "That's a decision," she replied. Selma nodded slowly, absorbing it. "I didn't come here to explain anything," Selma said, "or defend what happened." Pua appreciated that. She could feel it. "I came here to understand how we move forward," Selma continued. The same question, but now from a different place. Pua didn't answer immediately. She walked to the large screen on the wall, tapped once, a project appeared. New, unfinished, untouched by the past situation. "This is where we move forward," she said. Selma stepped closer, studied the design. Clean lines, balanced structure, intentional detail. "You're still working," Selma said. Pua glanced at her. "I never stopped," she replied. A simple truth. Selma nodded. "And if we asked you to lead this?" she said. Pua didn't look surprised, but she didn't accept right away either. "Why would you ask that?" she asked. Selma answered without hesitation. "Because you already are," she said. A quiet moment passed. Pua considered it. Not the role, but the meaning behind it. "This isn't about replacing anything," Selma added. "It's about resetting how we build." Pua turned fully toward her. "And if that resets again?" she asked. Selma didn't avoid the question. "Then we address it again," she said. "No perfection promised, just consistency." Pua nodded slowly. "That's acceptable," she said. Selma's shoulders relaxed slightly. Not relief, but alignment. "There's one more thing," Selma said. Pua waited. "I'd like you to define the design approval process moving forward," Selma continued. A shift. Not just responsibility, but trust. Pua didn't respond immediately. She understood the weight of that. Not authority, but influence. "It has to be clear," Pua said finally. Selma nodded. "It will be," she replied, "and consistent," Pua added. Selma met her eyes. "Yes," she said. Another pause. Then Pua extended her hand. Not formal, not symbolic, just direct. Selma looked at it for a brief moment, then took it, a simple gesture, but not a small one, because it didn't erase what happened. It didn't rewrite the past. But it acknowledged something important, that moving forward wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing better. Selma released her hand. "I'll have the team ready by this afternoon," she said. Pua nodded. "I'll be there," she replied. Selma turned to leave, but paused at the door, then added, "You didn't just protect your work." Pua looked at her. "You protected the standard," Selma said. Pua didn't respond. She didn't need to, because for the first time that standard wasn't just hers. It was shared. And that was the real change. At exactly 3:16 p.m., the main conference room of Desert Bloom Living was filled, not crowded, but complete. Every seat was taken. Designers, project managers, operations leads, even a few external partners, not because they were required to attend, but because they chose to. At the center of the room, a large digital screen displayed a simple title, Design Integrity Framework, Draft 1. No branding, no unnecessary decoration. Just clarity. Pua stood at the front, not elevated, not separated, just positioned where she could be seen and heard. Tanjeni sat near the side observing. Selma sat at the table, not leading, not interrupting, just present. The room settled quickly, not with tension, but with focus. Pua looked around once, made eye contact with a few team members, then began. "This isn't a presentation," she said. Her voice was calm, measured. "It's a working session." A few people nodded. Relaxing slightly, Pua continued. "What we define today will shape how we work moving forward." She tapped the screen once. A structure appeared. Clear sections, defined steps, ownership points, nothing abstract, everything actionable. We are not creating something new, she said. We are making something clear. She paused, letting that land. Because when things are clear, they're harder to ignore. A subtle shift in the room, not defensive, but reflective. Pure moved to the first section. Project origin, she said. Every concept must have a documented source. She didn't rush, didn't over-explain. She let the simplicity speak. No assumptions, she added. No, we thought, or it came from discussion. A few people exchanged glances, recognizing the difference. Pure continued. Design attribution. She looked directly at the group. If more than one person contributes, we document that clearly. No hesitation, no ambiguity. Not for credit, she added, but for clarity. Tanjini smiled slightly, because he understood this wasn't about recognition. It was about structure. The next section appeared. Approval flow. Pure stepped slightly to the side. This is where things failed before, she said. No blame, just fact. Selma didn't react outwardly, but she listened, fully. Moving forward, Piawa continued. No design moves forward without documented approval at each stage. She pointed to the flow. Concept review, revision, final approval. Each step connected, each step accountable. If something skips a step, she said, it doesn't move forward. Simple, firm, unavoidable. A hand raised from the table, one of the senior designers. And if timelines are tight, he asked. Pua nodded. Then we adjust timelines, she replied. Not defensive, not dismissive, not standards. A quiet pause followed, because that answer wasn't what people were used to. But it was clear. Pua continued through the framework, each section grounded, each rule practical, no unnecessary complexity, just consistency. As she spoke, the room changed, not dramatically, but noticeably. People leaned in, took notes, asked questions, not to challenge, but to understand. And for the first time, they weren't reacting to a problem. They were building a system. Together, toward the end, Pua paused, then looked at the room. This only works if it's used, she said. No emphasis, no pressure, just truth. So this isn't my framework, she added. A few people looked up. It's ours. Silence followed, but not empty, full, because everyone understood what that meant. Responsibility. Shared. Selma leaned forward slightly. This will be implemented immediately, she said. Her tone was steady, but different than before. Less directive, more aligned. And reviewed in 30 days, she added. Pure nodded. That's reasonable, she said. No power struggle, no resistance, just agreement. The meeting didn't end with applause. It ended with movement, people standing, talking, discussing next steps, not lingering in the moment, but carrying it forward. Tanjeni approached Pure. That wasn't just a framework, he said. Pure glanced at him. I know, she replied. Tangeni smiled. That was a reset, he said. Pure didn't deny it because it was true. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Selma walked over. Thank you, she said. Pure met her gaze. For what? She asked. Selma paused, then answered carefully. For making it clear enough that we couldn't avoid it, she said. Pure considered that, then nodded. Clarity isn't pressure, she said. It's direction. Selma absorbed that, then gave a small nod, before stepping away. As the room slowly emptied, the screen remained on. Design Integrity Framework, Draft 1. Not final, not perfect, but started. And sometimes that was the most important part. Because once something was clearly defined, it didn't disappear. It didn't fade. It became part of how things were done. And that was how real change lasted. The main conference room of Desert Bloom Living felt different from any previous meeting, not because of the number of people, but because of why they were there. Every seat was filled not out of obligation, but intention. Designers, project managers, operations leads, and even external partners sat quietly, waiting not for instructions, but for direction. At the center of the room, a large digital screen displayed a simple line: Design Integrity Framework, Draft 1. No dramatic branding, no corporate slogans, just clarity. Piawa stood at the front, not elevated above anyone, not positioned as authority, just present, visible, grounded, and steady. Tanjini leaned slightly against the wall, observing. Selma sat among the team, not leading, not controlling, just listening. The room settled quickly. Piwa glanced across the space, once making eye contact, acknowledging presence, then began. This is not a presentation, she said. Her voice was calm, measured. This is a working session. The tension eased slightly. People shifted in their seats, not disengaging, but leaning in. Pure tapped the screen. A structured layout appeared. Clear sections, defined stages, ownership points. No complexity hidden behind jargon. We're not building something new, she continued. We're making something clear. A brief pause, because when things are clear, they can't be ignored. The words didn't feel heavy, but they stayed. She moved to the first section, project origin. Her tone remained steady. Every concept must have a documented source. No explanation layered on top, no justification, just a rule. No assumptions, she added. No vague discussions without trace. A few people exchanged quiet looks, recognizing how often that line had blurred before. Next section, design attribution. She looked direct at the group. If more than one person contributes, it must be documented clearly. No hesitation, no confusion between collaboration and ownership. Tanjani folded his arms slightly, a small smile forming. Because this wasn't about ego, it was about structure. The next section appeared. Approval flow. Pure stepped slightly to the side. This is where the system failed, she said. No accusation, no names, just truths. Selma didn't react, but she listened fully. Moving forward, Pure continued. No design progresses without documented approval at each stage. She pointed to the flow, concept, review, revision, final approval. Each stage connected, each stage accountable. If a step is skipped, she said, the project stops. Simple, direct, unavoidable. A hand raised. One of the senior designers spoke, and if deadlines are tight, Pure nodded slightly. Then we adjust deadlines, she replied. A brief pause. Not standards. Silence, because that answer shifted responsibility. From pressure to priority, Pure continued through each section. Nothing excessive, nothing abstract. Every part practical, usable. As she spoke, the energy in the room shifted. People weren't just listening, they were thinking, writing notes, asking questions not to resist, but to understand. And slowly, this stopped feeling like a correction, started feeling like construction. Toward the end, Power paused. She looked across the room again. This only works if we all use it, she said. No emphasis, no force, just truth. So this isn't mine, she added. A few heads lifted. It's ours. That word landed differently. Shared responsibility, accountability. Selma leaned forward slightly. This will be implemented immediately, she said, her voice steady but softer than before, and reviewed in 30 days. Pure nodded. That works, she said. No tension, no hierarchy, just alignment. The meeting didn't end with applause. It ended with movement. People stood, turned to each other, started discussing next steps, not reacting to the past but building what came next. Sanjani approached Pure. That wasn't just a framework, he said quietly. Pure glanced at him. I know, she replied. Sanjani smiled. That was a reset. Pure didn't argue because it was true. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Selma walked over. Thank you, she said. Pure met her eyes. For what? She asked. Selma paused, then answered carefully. For making it impossible to ignore what matters. Pure thought about that, then nodded. Clarity isn't pressure, she said. It's direction. Selma absorbed the words, then gave a small nod before stepping away. As the room slowly emptied, the screen remained lit. Design integrity framework, draft 1, not final, not perfect, but real. Because once something is clearly defined, it doesn't disappear. It becomes part of how people work. And that is how change lasts. At 6:28 p.m., the rooftop terrace of Desert Bloom Living overlooked the glowing skyline of Windhoek. The city lights stretched far into the distance, quiet, steady, alive. Not loud, not overwhelming, just present. The event was smaller than the one before, more intentional. A private gathering, team members, a few partners, no media, no announcements, just people who had been part of the change. Soft music played in the background. Warm lights reflected off glass tables. Elegant, simple, refined. Pure stood near the edge of the terrace. Not isolated, but not at the center either. She held a glass of water untouched. Her eyes moved across the skyline, taking it in, not as a moment of victory, but as a moment of stillness. Tanjani approached quietly. You disappeared, he said with a faint smile. Pure glanced at him. I didn't disappear, she replied. I stepped away. Tanjani nodded. That sounds more like you. A brief silence settled between them, comfortable, not needing to be filled. You know, Tanjeni added, a lot of people expected something different. Piwa raised an eyebrow slightly. Like what? A bigger reaction, he said. A stronger response. Piwa looked back toward the city. They already saw what mattered, she said. No tension, no lingering anger, just clarity. Tangeni studied her for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, he said quietly. They did. Across the terrace, Selma stood speaking with a small group. Her posture had changed, less rigid, more open. She wasn't performing leadership, she was practicing it. Ndeshi stood nearby, not avoiding people, not hiding, engaging, listening, different from before. Not because she was trying to repair her image, but because she was learning to understand it. Sakaria stood with her, not dominating conversations, just present, participating. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no forced conversations, no symbolic speeches, just real, gradual, earned. Selma eventually walked over. She paused a few steps away from Pua, then stepped closer. The framework is already changing things, she said. Pua turned slightly. How? She asked. Selma gave a small, thoughtful smile. People are asking questions they didn't ask before, she said. Pua nodded. That's a good sign. Selma glanced out at the skyline. I used to think clarity slowed things down, she admitted. Pua listened. But now I see it prevents the wrong things from moving forward at all. A quiet truth. Pua didn't rush to respond. She let it settle. That's the point, she said. Selma nodded slowly, then added, You didn't push for control. Pua looked at her. You made it impossible to avoid responsibility. Pua held her gaze. That's enough, she said. No pride, no modesty. Just truth. Selma exhaled slightly, a weight not removed but understood. I'm glad you stayed, she said. Pua didn't answer immediately, because staying had never been about comfort. I stayed for the work, she replied. Selma nodded. And now? She asked. Pua looked back toward the skyline, the lights, the distance, the quiet. Now I stay for the standard, she said, a subtle shift, not personal, not emotional, structural, lasting. Selma accepted that, without question, without needing more. Across the terrace, conversations continued, laughter here, quiet discussions there, nothing dramatic, but everything different because something invisible had changed. Not the people, not the space, but the way things were understood. Tanjeni raised his glass slightly. To clarity, he said. Pua looked at him, then lifted her glass just a little. To clarity, she echoed. They didn't drink immediately, just held the moment, because it wasn't about celebration. It was about recognition of what had shifted, of what would stay, and of what would not be allowed to happen again. The music continued softly. The city lights remained steady, and for the first time, nothing felt unresolved. Not because everything was perfect, but because everything was clear. And clarity, when it is real, doesn't need noise. It simply remains quietly, consistently, exactly where it should be. This story is not only about the relationship between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law, but more deeply about how people unconsciously repeat the wounds they once experienced. What made me think the most was not that Selma changed when she saw her daughter facing the same situation, but that before that moment, she had never asked herself, if this hurts me, why am I doing it to someone else? Pewa did not win through revenge or by hurting others in return. She preserved her dignity by setting clear boundaries quietly but firmly. This shows that kindness does not mean accepting unfair treatment. A person can be gentle, but must still know how to protect their own worth. Tanjeni also represents an important lesson. Silence is not always neutral. Sometimes silence means standing on the side of the one causing harm. A mature husband does not only love his wife through words, but through actions that protect the marriage. As for Ndeshi, her journey reminds us that experiencing pain does not automatically make someone better. Real change only begins when a person is willing to face their mistakes and take responsibility. From my personal perspective, a family should not be built on one-sided sacrifice. Love is not a place where one person must become smaller so the other can feel bigger.